Sport Fishing on the Fly is brought to you by Maui Jim Sunglasses. First Tellurium Corp., the future of mining. And Hardy Rods and Reels.
Welcome to the bench. As promised, I'm going to tie you up Deb'S Damselfly Nymph. So make sure you have these materials handy before you tie the fly. For the hook, I'm using a size 12 curved nymph hook. Thread is 18-aught medium olive. For the eyes, I'm using 40-pound mono and I'm burning them. The tail is light olive Marabou. The flash in the tail is yellow crystal flash. For the back and the wing case, I'm using 0.8mm copper tinsel. The body is golden olive gel core micro Fritz. The rib is 0.1mm Chartreuse Wire. And for the thorax, I'm using olive brown ice stub. The legs are olive Brahma hen. So you just go ahead and start your thread on the hook. I'm just going to bring it a little ways back and then forward again to about a hook eye length away from the end here. And I've gone ahead and I've burnt some mono eyes out of the 40-pound mono. I'm just going to tie these in a figure 8. Just helps to catch it on one side first and then twist your eyes and center them after you get it on. And then just go around, do some figure 8s, make sure those eyes are in there really good. You could add some Zap-A-Gap or super glue at this point if you want, but I find they actually stay on there pretty good. And then go ahead and just take your thread right back to the bend of the hook. About there. Next, take your Marabou. And I'm just going to strip one side off of this Marabou plume. I don't want a very thick tail. That might not be thick enough, maybe just a little bit more. One sec. I like to measure the tail about the length of the body. I'm going to be taking a little bit off this Marabou, so I'm just going to tie this in. About there, and then I'm just going to take my fingers and pinch it to length, so you can always measure it by pulling it back over. Okay, that's about how long I want it. And just never cut your Marabou. You always want to pinch it off with your fingertips. It just looks better. Now you can take your crystal flash. I'm just going to tie it in on one side first. And then just bring it over to the other side. Clip those off, about the same length as the tail. Next, I'm just going to bring my thread back up. So next I'm just going to take my wire and tie it in. I like to tie it a little bit forward and bend it backwards and go over top of it. Just holds it in a lot stronger. Just bring it right back to where that last wrap is. Now you can take your copper tinsel. If you don't have copper tinsel, I've also used like olive pheasant tail or even brown pheasant tail for the back of this fly. When Dawn and I were fishing, we observed the damsels that were swimming around. We could see them swimming around, and they did have like a little bit of a dark back on them. And next, you can take my body material. I'm just going to back my thread up. I didn't mean to go that far. And this gel core microfritz is great for these kind of bodies, but you could also, if you don't have this stuff, you could also just use Marabou. Either twist it on your thread, or you can wrap it up the hook as a body, or even dubbing. Or ostrich herl works good as well for damsels. So I'm just going to bring my thread right up to the eye. And just take your body material and wind it up the hook. Almost to the eye area. Tie that off, and then you can snip away your excess. Next, just take your copper tinsel and fold it right over the back, making sure it's centered. And just give it a couple of locking wraps. And don't cut it off. You want to keep it there for now. Now you can take your wire, and when you've got a back like this on a fly, I'm just going to wrap this around here. Hang on one sec. I'm just going to put one little locking wrap on this tinsel here because it's going to be in my way otherwise. When you're doing a wire body and you've got like a tinsel back like that, it can slip. So what you want to do is, when you're pulling your wire tight, you want to pull it from the bottom, not from the top. Otherwise it could mess with the tinsel. So just pull it tight as you get to the bottom. Make some nice even ribs up the hook shank. And then tie that off. You can just take your wire and pull your thread, give your wire a little twist, and it'll come right off. Now you want to take your leg material. I've got the Brahma hen. And what I like to do is just isolate the tip. So I like to measure back. I like to take my Brahma hen, measure back how far I want my legs to go. And this is quite a big feather, so I'm going to just take the very end of this tip off. And all I'm going to do is just pull it right out so it's not there anymore. Then I'm going to take, there's two ways you could do this. You could take, it's such a big feather that you could take it off each side and just tie it on each side. And I probably will do that with the rest of the feather, but I'm just going to pull a little bit out of the way and only put the amount of legs that I want to tie in, like that. If you could just turn the way so you can see what I'm doing. And it doesn't matter how far back you tie it, because I'm going to pull it forward anyway. I'm just going to give it a couple of wraps first. And then I'm just going to pull it, get it to the length I want. Just about there. Give it a couple more wraps. And then you can snip away your stem. And I just took that tinsel and moved it backwards so I can put my ice stub in there. And I'm just taking a tiny little amount. Very, very small amount. You don't need much. It's just to give it a little bit of flash. Like that. And then just take your wing case and fold it over top. Go ahead and snip that off. And whip finish. I always like to give it two. There's one little piece of iced up here. I'm just going to chalk off. And just make sure your legs are sort of off to the side. That's how I like mine anyway. And there you have it, Deb's Damselfly Nymph. Great little pattern that was working for us up in the Marabou, so make sure you have some tied up for your box.